my name's Olga, and I'm an artist in the Lowertown downtown area. More like in between downtown and Lowertown. I live in the Pioneer building, and I specialize in painting and murals, as well as I use a lot of found objects. So I also have a lot of 3D art. So I'm a part of the artist culture, I would say, or the multicultural component of Lowertown. Because I'm multilingual as well, so I guess I fall into different subcultures of the Lowertown area.
That's great. Is it okay if I talk about creator space as well? Is that all right if I do that? Okay, so my name is Brian Silver. I'm actually a pastor of a local church called Hope Community Church Lowertown. Fathom that. We're within eyeshot of here. I can at least see the steeple. And we're just down the street here. And we've been meeting for about 3 years, almost in September, that we have been meeting in this community. Fun fact, we actually looked at purchasing this space to make it a church. It would have been a very awkward church space, but we are really glad that we're here. We love the community. I fell in love with this neighborhood back in 2012. I was taking some bass guitar lessons and over right above Black Dog Cafe. And I was like, yep, this is where I want to start a new church. And took about 8 years, but we did it. And so we were just, again, meeting just right on the street. We rent from the First Baptist Church. And yeah, we've been there for 3 years now. So this space, though, is called the Creator Space. I'm a member here. It's an artist co-op. It's just awesome. It's 34,000 square feet, and you can just, their whole catchphrase is just begin. Just go try something out, and it's been great. It's helped me try new art. Started a podcast because of a class I took here. I teach a class here on public speaking and those kinds of things, and just community, different things with entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, that's a little bit about myself, and thanks, Patrick, for putting this on, man. It's really cool. Just keep going. Okay, all right. Well, Patrick gave us a list of questions here, so I'll just read them and then we'll just jump into it.
Oh, sure.
Wherever it works. Okay, so in your opinion, what is the relationship between residents, artists, and businesses?
I think that all those three aspects, intertwine. As an artist, I'm also a business owner, and I'm also a resident of the area, and I found that I've made friends with a lot of different business owners, and some of whom are artists as well. So I feel like there's this really good relationship and rapport of artists and residents in business, for what I found, being here for the time that I've been here. And a lot of businesses in my building actually are people that are my friends and I've formed relationships with. And as I go to the different restaurants and other businesses, it's so easy to make friends, with the owners. So I feel like, it's a pretty good community, and that it's welcoming.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I came in as an outsider really 3 years ago, and met Melissa before this was before they even started construction. Melissa Dessart, she's one of the owners here with her husband Kevin, and they've just been super welcoming, right?
Yeah.
It's been great getting to know a lot of Butterton and the Dark Horse and Bulldog. I mean, the list goes on, right?
Right.
And Black Dog Cafe and the Farmers Market. You get to know people, and so I physically don't live in Lowertown. We live up in Roseville, and for a lot of various reasons, but I would love to live here.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't worked out. But it's everyone is from my experience, been really friendly, and they want to help. Everyone wants to just make this community better. Not that it's bad. I love this neighborhood. I love the community, but it's been so much fun to get to know people, and the pastor at First Baptist, he's been there 33 years, and he's lived in this community, and his daughter lives right across the street over here, and every time I hang out with him, I mean, he's introducing me to 10, 20 people every time we just walk around. Because everyone kind of, when you've been here for a while, you kind of recognize faces and why do I know you? How do I know you? And it's really been great. And even just this space with the artist, I don't know how many members Creator Space has, but this is a space that you just get to meet people.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And do you come here often?
Yeah, I do actually. I started coming here during the winter. I teach life drawing classes, so
great.
when I found out there were life drawing classes here, I was like, well, I just want to go and draw myself, for once not be teaching. And I used to come to the open mics as well. And more so now because I've built more relationships here, and it's just a neat space to just work, bring your computer, and just get to work. Like you said, you meet people through people, and I haven't been in Lowertown for a long time. I mean, 8-9 months.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been here for 10 years because
awesome.
every time I'm walking on the street, it's like I know this person.
Right.
It's like
Right. Yeah, and Guillermo, we got a little chef back here, and he's a fantastic cook and chef. It's really been a little coffee shop. You just get to know people, and it's just fun to walk into a place and they know you, you know them. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Have you observed learned behaviors or acquired knowledge among the residents? If that makes sense.
Gosh, that's a good question. Learned behaviors. I think one of the positive ones is the need to help. And you sort of fall into that culture as well of what's going on. I want to help this person. I want to once you find out there's a problem, or if someone is in need, so it's like this behavior that becomes a part of you. And I don't think I've been here long enough to recognize patterns, really. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think a big one right now, at least, has been a big question in everyone's mind, and I don't want to overstep boundaries here, but has been homelessness.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that in this community. It's kind of spiked up a little bit, and and within our gym at our church, we have 40 plus people living in the gym just since COVID started. Just to give people, it's called the Project Home Day Center. It's housed from the church, the back of it. There's a whole area. And it's been great to have them there and to serve with them. They serve hot meals, but that's for families though, right? So it's got to be a family that have kids or a kid. They can get life training and all that kind of help, which is great. But for the individual, the single guy just out on the streets, they're actually not even welcome, and not necessarily not welcome in our church, but within that ministry, it just doesn't work that way. And so that's been a big question, I think, in everyone's mind, because everyone wants to help. Even Creator Space, there's a knitting group.
Oh,
and
absolutely,
in the winter, right? They were knitting things for people, and so I think that's been a big thing. Everyone wants the help. I think the big question is how. Right?
See, it's interesting that you talk about that because I heard about the homeless people on the Lowertown page, and on the various pages, and how the Mears Park is getting trashed and everything. And for a while I was, an observer, like, okay, these people are scary. And I decided, I'm going to go talk to them, just figure out who are these people.
Right.
And I did. And I mean, the first time I did take some food because my friend owns a cafe. And so I would take food from her cafe, Parker Latte, which is in just the building next to Pioneer Endicott. And I just found out that these are human beings who want the same thing that I do. That I want. And so I would talk to them, here and there, and I got this idea that, okay, maybe they need tents, and to go to designated shelters. And, so I did also make a number of phone calls. And I spoke to somebody who works in the office of Commissioner Ortega, and they said they're going to get back to me and they're going to help, because I wanted to get more involved, besides me taking, these little packets of food or distributing water, which I do with another artist who is a member in this space. So, but then I found out yesterday or last night that they were driven out of Mears Park, and a few people were arrested. And as I took a walk today to have lunch with a very good friend of mine whose birthday it is, I found out that they moved to the park next to my building.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know, is it effective to arrest or drive them out of one park for them to go to a different park? And what happens to these individuals? I mean, I think that maybe instead of complaining about the trash and what's going on, we should maybe try to come together, as residents, and hey, maybe we're going to do a tent drive. Maybe we're going to figure out, make some phone calls and figure out where these individuals can go.
Right,
Because
right.
some of them, have mental health issues, and some have, addiction issues. And I've talked to some, and one of them said, it's hard for them to get into shelters while they're still dealing with their addiction issues.
Right, totally.
So what about, programs that can
Yep.
help with that? And
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I want to ask you too about, the one that you talked about. Why is it just families? Why not individuals?
Yeah.
Why
So,
not?
well, because we don't want kids in the street, right? That's a big one.
I see.
We want
Yeah.
families to stay together.
Right.
But because at the same time, though, there are within walking distance of here, you can almost see one over the top of the janitor store there. I don't know what that building's called, but Union Gospel Mission's right there.
Okay.
You've got 2 other within walking distance. And now I don't know the situation of the beds and the numbers. Of
Right.
If they wanted to go get a bed, could they get a bed? I honestly don't know. But I think there are options out there. But I think before it's just, hey, here's a bed, here's a shower, get yourself cleaned up. I think there's a deeper human heart issue that I think people want to be heard. Like you said,
Yes.
they just want to be listened to. Everybody has a story.
Yes.
I don't know how somebody got there. And so for me to walk up to somebody and again, this is my own human gut reaction when I'm walking through Mears Park, or even just on the north side of our parking lot, there's a little tent camp there. And instead of just going, oh man, would you just move? Would you just go get it? Why? Right? What's going on? Have you been hurt at one of these shelters? Have there been something that happened that makes you not want to do that?
Yeah.
And the individuals that I've interacted with, it's not a money thing. It's not, hey, here's $20 and this will fix your life. Okay, that's not going to do it.
Right.
And it's a huge issue that I don't have all the answers with, and yet we're doing our best to try to help. Financially and physically, cooking and all that kind of thing. And we got another pastor friend, Carl. He's right across up in Dayton's Bluff. I mean, you can see his building too that they rent from, and they've got a food shelter. And I think we're just trying to do the best we can. But until you really get to know people, man, you don't really know how you can help them all individually, right? But do they have a felony? If they got a felony, well, then they can't go get a job, right? If they can't get a job, then they can't go get a house. They can't. It's just a domino effect, and right. And we could talk about the whole systemic racism stuff that plays into all that, right? Which is another conversation for another day, probably. Right.
I believe in strength in numbers. So I think collectively as a community, if we come together and because we all have different ideas and what we can do, but if we come together, I mean, even if it's like 5-10 people, I think there's so much we can do. But it's like we all have these ideas, and we're sitting on our computers, or our phones, just typing about like, today I walked in the park and how trashy it was, or today there was a fight, or police. There's so much police. I think instead of doing that, we should come out of behind our screens and have a conversation, sit at a table and say, what do we do? And I think that's what we want to call for right now, because we can talk all day long behind our screens and nothing's going to get done, because they were driven out of the park yesterday, so where are they? Another park. So I don't know that that's a viable long-term solution, really. So.
Right. And we're not going to fix the world today, and yet at the same time, if we don't do anything, right? I mean, I think this is a great space. What I love about, actually, this is cool. This is a throw out to Melissa too with the Creator Space. This is called, where is it? Chat Room. And her whole plan with this space was to do exactly what we're doing. It's just kind of, can we just sit around and have a safe space to talk and disagree? Now we're agreeing, right? But I'm okay with somebody sitting here saying, no, actually, I think the best thing would be for them to get arrested. Maybe they get a shower and food in jail. I mean, let them go. Okay, let's talk about that. How can we and have an actual conversation without getting so mad at each other, get so heated about things. I mean, I get that, right? I get passionate about things, but we can still have a civil conversation. I think.
I mean, given that the times we're in right now, it's very tense. We're coming out of the COVID and lockdown. Actually, we still are. And some places are in phase 2, and and the racial tensions as well. So given it's tense, but I think that we have to step back a little bit and say, okay, how do I have a chat and a conversation? How do I come to this table to dialogue without putting so much emotion in it? and try to listen and come in a place of understanding. And while I present my views, I want to see where the other person's coming from. Ask questions. I really like asking questions. My sister and a few friends think I should be a lawyer, but I like to ask questions because I want to understand. That's how you understand people. So I think that would be really constructive, constructive way for any problem really to solve any problem.
Right. Yeah, a phrase we use a lot is matter and manner matter. And so in the sense of the content of what I'm saying, right? Hey, clean yourself up, or whatever, right? Whatever what I want to say, the content is really important.
Right.
But how I say it is just as equally as important.
Absolutely.
Right? And so matter and manner matter. I was it just came up on I think it was Disney Plus, the Ender's Game, I think it was. So I rewatched it, and he has the same thing. It's kind of the same idea of like it's all about winning this war or this major battle against an alien species, and he's talking with not Tom Hanks, Harrison Ford, and he says it's not just about winning, but it's also about how you win.
Yeah,
that's like a negative. Like we're going to win. We're going to win this conversation.
Yeah.
But I think there's a way to have civil conversations that we're agreeing here, right? We're like, we just became best friends. Like we're cool here, right?
And in a couple of minutes we might not be agreeing, so which is fine.
Depends on what it is, right?
As long as we keep it cordial.
Exactly. And I think it's just so essential right now. I think more than ever. And with Lowertown, I mean, again, we pass each other in the sidewalks. We might not know each other by names, but man, it's just, I don't think it's just them and us. And maybe that's the last question on here. Have you experienced opposing cultures in Lowertown? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, there is kind of this insider outsider, and even myself, I don't necessarily live within here. I work here, and actually, I make this my office, this space. I'm usually at this table 2 days, out of the week, and I work here. I love it. I spend my money here. I buy art from here. All those different things. That was another thing with our stimulus checks. We were trying to encourage people, like, hey, go buy some art, from our community,
Yes.
And it's just one of those things that I don't live here, and there are certain times I feel a little ostracized for that. I've got 2 little kids and a golden retriever. It's hard to find a house in this community or a condo
absolutely.
for this, right? I can't.
Although your golden retriever was feeling really well. I was leaving my studio today, and there were like 5 dogs in the skyway. Then I went downstairs. There are 2 more. I'm like, is it time to walk down right now?
That's right.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's in a sense there. I mean, like the opposing cultures. Talking about going back to that. As I was walking down, you're talking about the dogs, and then I was walking down when I realized, the homeless people, and they knew me, like by name, and it was so heartwarming. It's like, this is a community. I mean, it's sad that, some people have to sleep outside on a bench, and the rest of us have to be, in our warm beds. But how do we still have different cultures and yet have this community? I think it's by accepting one another. It's understanding that people are different, and just like you said earlier, how did they end up in this situation? We don't know. What will we do in that situation? I mean, we're different. I wish people first understand that, because I have 4 siblings, and we are all as different as night and day. So even people who grew up in the same household can be different. So why not people who grew up with different towns or backgrounds or countries? So it's just been, while I said, and while we agree that, it's just been nice and we meet people, but there's also that, little underlying problem we're having right now with the opposing cultures. I mean, like with my mural too. I mean, I have 4 other white women who are on the mural, but because tensions are high right now, I became the scapegoat, for the opposing culture of artist and immigrant and black and, all the things that I am, a woman.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? I wonder if maybe not everyone knows.
Yeah, so I, got asked to be on this project in Lowertown. There was a business, Adam's Market, that was vandalized. So they had boards on it. And me and a different, my neighbor, she's a business owner and she's an artist too, really great person. And she asked me to be on the mural project because I'm a mural artist. So she got permission from the business owner, and we knew that these boards and this art's going to be up for 2 weeks, and we're going to find a different home for it. Well, while we were painting, we got asked to, stop. Okay, this was like 2 days into the project, and at that point I was at the phase of just, this black male was forming. Okay, so we were asked to stop, and that glass is coming in the next day, and it just didn't feel right to me. I was like, well, I thought they said 2 weeks, and then we found out, we were told that, the building owner, not the business owner, did not, share our values. That's what we were told, number one. But two, he just wanted us to hold.
Well, what were your values at that point that you were portraying in art form?
So at that point, all we had up there was solidarity, unity, equality, equity. And just these figures forming. Another artist, Kylie, a really good art painter, was getting these outlines of that, and I was doing this form figure, right? Well, once my piece kept going, there was a noose around this figure, and because I've been doing, I have other pieces way before George Floyd was murdered, that I worked with nooses, they're 3D pieces.
Yeah.
So, and I did that also because, you cannot talk about racial injustice and social injustice and racism without talking about the uncomfortable parts.
100%.
So you cannot solve a problem without outlining the actual problem. So I juxtaposed these two murals, where there was this problem, and then there was this solution, which is the solidarity, unity, equality, and equity. And this happy go, we're all holding hands and singing kumbaya, and here there was this image that was hard to look at, and a lot of people got really upset because why would they want to look at that? And I said, well, because as a person of color, that's how I feel, that's how uncomfortable I've felt when artwork a project has been taken away from me, when I've been profiled, when I've been followed home. So that discomfort, I wanted people, to, in that moment, to have that discomfort and spark conversation around it. Because art is interpretation. Somebody said, well, why didn't you paint the actual, the kneeling on the neck, And I said, well, because this is my interpretation. I feel like, whether it's lynching, whether it's a gunshot, whether it's, death by asphyxiation, it's still murder.
Yeah.
So that was my interpretation, and because also another artist saw another piece of mine and said, why didn't you incorporate that in? So it was a group effort, and I thought that would be very powerful. And in the end, it got shut down, and we're looking for a new home for it, but it sparked a lot of controversy, including it being me being interviewed in the Pioneer Press this past weekend, and some people having some really strong opinions about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what I can say as a white male pastor from this neighborhood is just that. I've learned to just shut up and listen.
Right.
And rest, not rest, but wait in the uncomfortability that I know nothing about. I really don't.
Right.
I think a lot of people like me, myself, not just people, me.
Yes. I
want to go do something. What can I go do to fix it? And a lot of my friends of color are saying, maybe you should just sit in this for a little while. Maybe now you can learn what maybe we've been going through for our whole lives, and it's really been eye-opening for me and very helpful. And so, sorry you had to go through that. At the same time, I'm really glad you're able to share that with all of us, because that's really, really awesome.
I like what you said, is maybe listen. Listen is a very big part of anything,
Right.
You get to listen to me, I have to listen to you as well. I have to see where you're coming from. And I don't think that it should really be contentious if people don't have the same beliefs or understandings of something. And I think it becomes contentious when people lead with fear, so there's a lot of fear going on. So if we see something that we don't understand or that we're not familiar with, and we're already dealing with like I said, the COVID and the lockdowns, and that's not familiar to any of us, but if we can step back and just listen and understand, I think that we would, because we're all going through this. We're all going through this, and we have to understand that. And and the listening part is really crucial. You know, in so.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really good. No, man, I'm glad to have met you. This
Thanks.
has been
Yeah,
really good.
glad to have met you too.
It's cool. So, yeah, I'm not, I'm still in the learning process, obviously, and I have the privilege of, speaking in front of a lot of people every week, and at the same time, I don't have this figured out, right? And I need to learn, and we have an elder at our church who's African American, and letting him kind of just, hey, help me understand, because I don't, and it's been so insightful. It's been so helpful for me, and at the same time, it's hard and it's really uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And yet, I think that's what a lot of people. I think it's okay to be uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just listen.
Right.
And then do we just stay there though? No. I mean, at least not for me. At least not for our church. We're not just going to only listen.
Right.
Listening should help us understand and then motivate us to action, but motivate us to action in the right way. And not just say, hey, we can fix this problem if we throw enough money at it. We can fix this problem if whatever. But we've been using the acronym. It's called ARC. It's from a guy named Jamar Tisby. And he's got a podcast called Pass the Mic. And the whole ARC thing is just a sense of A is just awareness. And that's where we're at. We're just learning.
Yep.
R is relationships of get to know some people of color. If you don't know if you have any friends of color, right? And then C is commitment. Then what can we do now moving forward? And so right now, we're focusing on that A. But we will always be in that A. We need to always be learning, but at some point we need to shift and switch gears, keep learning, but actually doing something so.
And people have to understand that we're all learning in this. Just going back a little bit to the mural, I had some people come at me and, you liberal this, and it's like, people have to understand that black people are not a monolith, okay?
Right.
There are different subcultures of black people. I'm an African immigrant. I'm still learning Black American history. So when I come as an artist and, with my portrayal, it shouldn't be like, these black people, because I'm still learning from my Black American brothers and sisters. I'm still learning about, different cultures, African cultures as well. They're black people from Haiti, Jamaica. So we're not, this monolith, like I say, we're not, this one thing that if you know one, you know all of them. It's totally. Like you should come to people as individuals and, at that table and say, okay, I mean, there's obviously some things we have in common, but I think we're all very much individuals and with a different background and history. So.
Totally. No, it's awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions. So, any last comments or remarks or anything? Or?
No, I just think that for the most part, I feel like there's been this togetherness, that we're experiencing right now because we've all gone through this, the COVID, the lockdown, the racial tensions, and I think we need to focus on that. Let's celebrate that. Because if we're focusing on the negative parts, we're going to fall apart, all of us, and we all lose. When one of us loses, we all lose. So if we come together, we can do so much and come out of this. Businesses are dying, the economy. So we need to fix that. So let's just come together. So.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's a big part of even just within the scriptures of like when people are in exile in a city, seek the welfare of the city. That was Daniel, and so you want to see all the boats rise in the harbor, right? Not just my boat, right? I don't want to just rise up. Right, it's let's seek the welfare of the city and in the neighborhood. Forget the rest of St. Paul. It's just no, I'm just kidding. So so that's great. So Patrick, any last